Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, the man who unified India, from the book by Balraj Kishan. Here he talks about Bhopal, who was Jinnah's emissary. He had to surrender to Patel. Let's see how. The Nawab of Bhopal, Hamidullah Khan, was a Muslim ruler whom the British had deliberately invested with greater influence than his position deserved. His territory was small and his subjects were predominantly Hindus. He proved the most troublesome prince as Jinnah's emissary in India. He conspired to secure accession or association of Indian princes to Pakistan. He caused more headache to Patel than Corfield, secretary of the political department. The latter worked silently from behind the scene, while Bhopal openly played his game, exploiting his position as Chancellor of Chamber of Princes. Bhopal had two objectives to achieve. First, to establish princes as a potential third force and thus build a third dominion. And two, to achieve the task of Jinnah, which was entrusted to him to persuade hamlets among the princes to form independent confederations outside the Indian Union. As Jinnah's emissary, as one of his closest advisors, Bhopal was not averse to playing an important role in higher politics of Pakistan. And to succeed Jinnah after his death, that is what he contemplated. The crafty shepherd in Bhopal was confident of satisfying both Corfield and Jinnah by driving the fear-stricken, bewildered lambs among the princes into the pens of each who were building rope to bring them in. Bhopal's importance was due to his being a dynamic, articulate and crafty ruler who had forged himself to the forefront of the princely order as a Muslim ruler who could be most trusted ally of the British. Ascended to the throne in May 1926, he had been a promise and was brought into prominence since the Round Table Conference in 1931. With British support, he became Chancellor of Chamber of Princes, first from 1931 to 32 and again from 1943 till the resignation under force of circumstances in 1947. In the proceedings of States Negotiating Committee on the issue of princes joining the Constituent Assembly, Bhopal was anti-Indian among the others. He intimidated princes that there'll be chaos and big problems in case the date of joining of the Constitution Assembly was imposed. He tried to influence them by sword. He tries to influence them by word of mouth, besides pressing into service his Chancellor's Pakistani-dominated Secretariat to make them adopt a policy of wait and watch. Patel outmaneuvered Bhopal and made him suffer a humiliating defeat at the hands of Maharajas of Bikaner and Patiala. Equally so, through a vocal opposition built up within and outside Chamber of States, Prime Ministers, Diwans, Mirza Ismail of Mysore, V.T. Krishnamachari of Udaipur, Panikkar of Bikaner, and B.L. Mittar of Baroda. This resulted in weakening of Bhopal's position. Yet, because of cornfield support and inspiration from Jinnah, Bhopal continued undeterred to persuade the princes sitting on the fence to keep off the Bikaner Patiala group. Panikkar and some other divans believed that Bhopal was acting as an agent of Pakistan, and Bhopal came forward as the torchbearer for Hyderabad. Having entered into a compact with Nizam, whereby the former Bhopal agreed to use chamber to rally Hindu princes to undermine Hindu power in India, and government of Hyderabad was to finance this devious scheme. As 15th August drew nearer, Bhopal realized that his game was up. He also realized that in losing the battle to Patel and not to Mountbatten, he might lose all in the end. He found himself in an difficult, very difficult position. He approached Mountbatten to find out whether he could sign its standstill agreement without acceding to India. He perhaps wanted to see how strong Patel would be after the transfer of power. He wanted to formulate his strategy accordingly. He was told this was not possible. Thereupon, he sent his constitutional advisor Zafarullah to V.P. Menon to seek clarification of terms of accession. Menon told him that Bhopal could not be an exception. Bhopal met Mountbatten on 11th August, 4 days prior to transfer of power, and sought his help to save face. Could his accession be announced 10 days after the transfer of power, that is, by 25th August? Patel was generous to grant Bhopal's request. Since accession had to precede, not to follow, transference of power, Bhopal's was an unconstitutional request. No other prince had asked for it. Patel, however, graciously agreed. Even though Patel knew he is a pro-Pakistani Muslim ruler, he still granted him grace to find out his chances of succeeding Jinnah in Pakistan. Bhopal's claim lay in his having served Jinnah as a faithful emissary in his efforts to win strategical located Indian states to his side. In many cases, he had nearly succeeded but for Patel playing a Chanakya. As a devout Muslim, Bhopal aspired, according to Wavell, to fight to death for the Muslim cause. This he thought he could do best for Pakistan as head of state. According to Hodgson, 3 days before the period of grace expired, Bhopal, after a long talk with Patel, saw Mountbatten and explained the reasons for his hesitation. He had ambitions to play a big role in the Muslim world in the future, and he feared that if he acceded, the result will be that Jinnah would denounce him as a traitor to Muslim cause. Bhopal had flown to Karachi to meet Jinnah, who, though sufficiently magnanimous towards the Nawab, must have by then seen opposition from Liaquat Ali and other Muslim leaders. It was thereafter, on his return from Pakistan, that the state of Bhopal acceded to India. After his accession on 25 August, Bhopal wrote to Patel on 26th. By the time you receive this letter, you would have heard the news that I have decided to join Union of India. I do not disguise the fact that while struggle was on, I used every means in my power to preserve the independence and neutrality of my state. Now that I have conceded defeat, I hope you will find that I can be a staunch friend as I had been a strong enemy. Now, I wish to tell you, so long as you maintain your present firm stand against the disruptive forces in the country and continue to be a friend of the states, as you have shown you are, you will find in me a loyal and faithful ally. Patel was generous in his reply. Quite candidly, I do not look upon the accession of your state to the Indian Dominion as either a victory for us or defeat for you. It is only right and propriety which have triumphed in the end, and in that triumph, you and I have played our respective roles. You deserve full credit for having recognized the soundness of the position and for the courage, the honesty, and the boldness of having given up your earlier stand, which, according to us, was entirely antagonistic to the interests as much of India as to your own state.